So today we'll be talking about a very interesting topic, transforming business with Agentic AI. So far, thanks all the speakers. They are talking about a lot of technical things. Let's talk about something that the business implementation of Agentic AI. I'm Joyjit Roy. I have 21 years of experience in IT industry. I started my career as a software developer, transitioned to a program manager around 11 years back. And since last 3 years, I've been managing AML programs. So since I'm a technical program manager, I'm doing a lot of hands-on guiding my teams, then architects on AML, particularly with LLMs, Agentic AI, and generative AI. So I acquired a lot of knowledge. So here I am to share some of those knowledges that I have acquired since last 3 years with all of you guys, particularly, in context of how we transforming business with help of Agentic AI. So let me know. Fair enough. So this is the overview. This webinar will explore how Agentic AI is transforming business. Then it will examine the fundamental differences between AI agents and Agentic AI. And then we'll talk about basically we need to understand the difference between the AI agent and Agentic AI. And it is very important in this context, right? And then we'll talk about the distinction between the task execution, adaptive decision systems, and why this distinction matters. And then definitely we'll take some real world example. Particularly, we'll be talking about e-commerce, insurances, and healthcare. So even if we cannot get enough time, at least we'll talk about the e-commerce and insurance. I'll try to cover my best, at least two domain with real life example of implementation of Agentic AI in business. Moving to next is a quick table of content. So first, as I was telling in the last previous slide, we'll talk about AI agents, multi-agent system, and Agentic AI. So these are the three different systems, right? We'll not go very fast. We need to understand these systems, right? For to understand that how different system can be used in different business context. Next is definitely we'll talk about how you are transforming business with help of the agentic world. Then example, enterprise case studies, and then we'll have a conclusion and Q&A. So first, we'll talk about the AI agents, multi-agent systems and Agentic AI. Let's start with AI agent. So what is an AI agent? So it is actually a workflow. It is definitely an autonomous system, but it's actually not an agentic system, which actually being able to adapt the course of action when they're executing. So let me explain you a little, in a different way. So you define a workflow through an AI agent. So when that workflow is executed, right? Once the execution is completed, it collects the outcome, the performance, all the other matrices, and see if there is any scope of improvement. And if then in the next run, it will correct those courses. But if in a particular execution or a particular workflow execution, if there is something wrong, fair? If there is something wrong, it will not correct that. So that is actually one drawbacks of AI agent. But I'm sorry, I started with the drawbacks, but I just wanted to let you know that this actually a core definition of AI agent. And let's talk about the different components of AI agents. Here you can see the first thing is the trigger. So trigger could be user inputs, schedule jobs, events, anything. It could be an MTP call. So where we are fetching the data from external protocols. Then we have the guardrails, and guardrails is very, very important things, right? So why? Not only for Agentic AI, for AI, the guardrails, compliance, ethics is very important, and it is getting more important day after day, right? With not the fear that Agentic AI will actually take over the world, but it is because that AI should be limited to do, and in different contexts, this security, compliance, and policies, everything should be different. So when you create an AI agent, whatever the purpose, that purpose defines what should be the policies, compliance, and security. If it is a cybersecurity AI agent implementing with an autonomous autonomous AI is taking care of a cybersecurity. So the policies are different. But if it is taking care of, say, transactions, right? So it will be a different thing. So depending on the nature of the work, the guardrails defined, but it is very important. Third is the context builder. So context builder is not like something that you are planning or doing some work. Basically, it is collecting data, right? So gather data, records, and environment signals that is needed for the further executions or the actual work. So sometimes it happens that you ask a question or in a particular flow, you need to fetch the data from external services, right? It is necessary. Maybe not only one, multiple external services. It might be necessary. Just giving an example. So then what the context builder will do, definitely it's actually a model. It will fetch the data. And if there is some calculation needed, if you need to call a database to get some data, a telemetry, pull some telemetry data, or could be that it's do some manipulation or calculation, might be, right? It can call the cache, but basically it is creating or collecting all the information needed for the planning and execution. The fourth phase of an AI agent is an intent detection, right? So intent detection actually classify tasks and route to the correct workflow. Basically, it's understand the intent. For an example, that if you are doing a sentiment analysis, and when a sentiment analysis is going on, it's the intent, the system will try to understand the intent of the user, right? What he's actually thinking, looking, he's emotionally, doing something. Just give an example. Most of the cases like Agentic AI has been used for more different purpose, like more broader purpose. But I'm just giving an example so that you can understand that what intent detection means. But in real world, they understand the intent. This intent is to, fraud detection. And what kind of fraud detection? Is it like authentication hijacked or privilege, hijacked or something like that? So, and if that, then what is the path, attacker paths, and how do you detect and prevent that? So that kind of intent detection has been done here. Next is the task planning. So next, once the intent is understood, that what actually is trying to achieve, right? So the task planning kicks in. It defines the steps and also, collect the required tools needed. Information of the required tools. It's not actually pull the tools, but yes, it define what all tools is needed. For an example, a tool could be like, creating a calendar event or sending a mail at the end of the execution, right? So you need a tool. You need to connect to some servers. Then next, execution. This is where actual workflow happens. So the actions take places. If you need to call API, update databases, you need to run a batch job, so and so. Outcome generation is actually once the execution complete, generates the outcome. And finally, you have the login and feedback. So this is where actually the feedbacks is getting generated, and the whole agent understands the performance, and depending on the performance it gets in the next run, for the similar event, it will try to improve the workflow. So that is an AI agent for you guys. So I'll move to the next one. A quick snippet. I'll not go very deep on the multi-agent AI system. So basically, multi-agent AI system is like you have multiple agents, and each agents are actually specialized in a particular role. So basically, you might be doing some in a system. You have to do a lot of things. Say an insurance system, right? Insurance system, when you purchase an insurance, it has a lot of things. It will do underwriter's process. It will check your background and calculate the premium. That could be done by one particular agent. And the second agent could do transactions. Third agent could make sure that eliminate all cybersecurity threats. So different agents are specialized in different purpose. And in real world, a multi-agent system is actually more contextual. One agent cannot do everything. But how they do that, right? So there are a few components. Most of the components are shared, but some of the components are unique. For an example, how these agents are communicating. If you see at the top middle is the communication channel. So all the agents actually talking through this communication channel, and this communication channel is actually talking through the external system. So through communication channel, all the request comes, the triggers that we talked about in previous slide, and then communication channels send the details to agents. So now agent have the details that what does they need to do, right? But who divide those tasks? That which agent do what? That at the right side, you will see collaboration strategy 1, 2, 3, 4. The task allocation happens through that component or module. Definitely it's a model again, but it has the information about all the agents, what each of these agents can do or cannot do. Based on that, collaborative strategy or task allocation, assign the tasks. I give you the example, right? 3 examples. So say, in an underwriter process, those 3 tasks has been assigned to 3 different agents. Third part is definitely information sharing. Information sharing is what's happening when one agent do something, right? So definitely they are communicating through the communication channel. Agent 1 to talk to agent 2, they are not directly talking. They are actually talking to communication channel. But if they are doing some, gather some information which has meaning, they store in the information sharing so that other agents can also collect that information. So for an example, for a particular execution, if underwriters one, sorry, the agent 1 who is doing the underwriter process learned that the customer they are actually checking has some payment defaults, right? That information will be shared there so that when the other 2 agents, agent 3, when they're doing some transaction, right, they'll be extra cautious or add some guardrails on checks and balances, right? And also it has a knowledge base. Definitely the knowledge or performance, right? Everything they learn from there, they store permanently in the knowledge base. Obviously, knowledge base has long-term memory and short-term memory. I'm not getting into that core details. You guys obviously know that. And definitely there is another thing is that the environmental part. So in what environment it has been, the agents are getting, executed. Each agent has a different environment, but they have a common external telemetry interface, right? So they talk to the external world through this external telemetry interface, right? And this is common for all the agents. So that's actually a multi-agent AI system. That's how in real world agent AI agent works. Mostly you will not see one single agent running on one entire flow. It will be multiple agents and each agent is a specialist on different tasks. Okay, so I'll move to the interesting part. So agentic AI, right? Remember when I was talking about AI agent, I was talking about that in a particular workflow, AI agent complete the workflow and then it collects the feedbacks, matrices, and see if there is an improvement area so that in next run, they don't repeat the mistake. But agentic AI is different. And the biggest difference between AI agent and agentic AI is when an execution is happening, if there is a path incorrect or there's a mistake, it can be auto-corrected during the same execution. That's is the agentic AI for you guys, right? So if you see the screen, if you see the 7 outcome evaluation, it goes back to adaptive planning, and I'll explain you all these 7 components. And believe me, this is the simplest workflow that someone can define on the agentic. It is more complex than this, definitely. Try to make it simple, right? So let's start with that. First, we'll talk about the goal initiation. So it is same as AI agents, like it is goal initiation is actually collecting the request, right? And it could be a user input, it could be a batch job, API call, or something, a patch job, right? Update database, whatever it is. The guardrails, definitely it's the same. Excuse me. So checks, balances, policies, compliance, and everything is controlled by the guardrail that I explained in details in when I was talking about AI agent. So these 2 module, 95 to 19% same, with some caveats. For an example, goal initiation and guardrails actually continues talking to the real-time monitoring, which is not missing in AI agents, right? And why they're talking to the monitoring, or why the monitoring actually continues talking to goal initiation guardrail, I'll explain this later, right? We'll come to that. Third is the intent understanding. So it's also called interpreter. So basically it's things little getting different. So it's not, like an AI agent, but it's actually do more than AI agents in terms of understanding the intent. right? So it's actually go deeper to understand the inherent meaning of the request that they have received, whatever it is. If there is something that is not been explained or something that is also been needed and extra steps. So that's actually start agentic AI start getting interesting. And a lot of research is going on that it's this is something the interpreter is actually the first steps to make an agentic AI more autonomous, more smarter, right? So and new models are coming to understand the intent better, right? And that's the first step forwards to make narrow intelligence to generic intelligence. The next thing is like adaptive planning. This is where things are really getting different. So adaptive planning here, when you do a planning, when you actually create an agentic AI, in adaptive planning part or planning part, you can add a lot of modules, but the whole intent here is that you need to create a chain of thoughts, right? So here, the adaptive planning, the planning module should be able to define particular work in steps that, okay, first step this, and if this is successful, this, the workflow should be second steps, third step. If not successful, or if needs a different workflow, that could be fourth or fifth steps. So the chain of thoughts. So that has been defined in the planning section. And then it is, this information has been passed to the action controller, right, for autonomous execution. And definitely it's actually do the real work. That's again like the whatever the plan is, as per plan is started executing. And then the real-time monitoring. So when you're talking about real-time monitoring on the screen, you will see that it's only talking to the autonomous execution, but ideally it is talking to all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all these components. And why? Because when the goal insertion is happening, or the guardrails are being checked, or the interpreter is trying to interpret, the real-time monitor is collecting data, the performance, all the steps they are doing, and pass it to the outcome evaluation to see that if they're doing it right. If something's wrong, immediately the outcome evaluation is informing that particular module that, hey, you are doing this wrong, do it differently. Or it could be later part of time. For an example, let me give you an example. So say it's an underwriter process, right? And the fast underwriter process doing by this my agentic AI, I defined it only to do underwriter processing. And what I said to the planning division that in your chain of thoughts, what you will do is check the background, check the credit score, okay, and check any accident history. Maybe the person is trying to buy a car insurance. So check the credit accident history, collect all this data, and pass it, and based on that, calculate a premium, whatever the premium for his car and car information, and then send it to the execution. Execution will calculate everything and send it to the outcome. And outcome will actually send it to the UI, will show the premium. That's how it works, right? So backend agentic AI. But when this execution is happening, the real-time monitoring identified that, hey, the person has a defaulter, payment default. Is a payment defaulter. He might miss some payments earlier and never paid that. Right. So immediately that real-time monitoring send the details to outcome evaluation. Outcome evaluation will tell the planning, hey, can you add few more checks? For an example, if he has any, how many payments he has missed earlier, he's a payment defaulter. Add those information in your planning, and then again send a chain of thoughts or whatever the steps that you calculated, right? And based on that, whatever premium you calculated, you send it to the action controller. Action controller will do the actions again. Make sure that the premium has been sent to the front end, and this time the premium will be different. It could be higher. Example. So in the same go, it again go back if there is some steps missed during the planning or during the execution, or even during the when the interpreter is interpreting, even when the guardrails and policies are being added or checked, even during the user input. Some cases they also check that if they have the user input properly done. If not, they probably won't proceed further. Right. So this entire loop is called think, act, and sense. When they're acting, they're sensing. And when they're sensing, they're again thinking and then acting or recorrecting the course. So that's is an agentic AI for you guys, my friend. Basically, it's AI agent is a workflow, but Agentic AI is really smart to think when they're acting. So that's the difference. So now is the interesting part. We understand the differences, right? Business transformation with help of Agentic AI. So I'll try to move faster in the interest of time. So Agentic AI across industries, you see that these are different workflows, right? These are not industry, but these workflows or these business functions are being used by different domain. So where we are actually transforming the world with the help of Agentic AI, IT support, the chatbots and all, HR operations are using Agentic AI, customer support, fraud detection. It has been heavily investing on Agentic AI. Software development, yes. Now the software development is started using Agentic AI to autonomous, to implement autonomous flow. Finance, healthcare, legal, they're all exploring and uh, trying to modernize their business with the help of Agentic AI. And we'll give some examples in the next slide. We'll talk about e-commerce. So there are the six areas, personalized shopping, fraud detection, order fulfillment, inventory optimization, customer service, and dynamic pricing. Let's talk about how they're implementing this. We'll take some example. So when you're talking about personalized shopping experience, so they're actually implementing agentic AI framework at the back end. So for any individual user, when they are actually doing shopping and when they're say doing all this search, clicks, check, adding to cart and everything they're doing, the agentic is actually collecting all this information and trying to understand the pattern of what this person is trying to purchase. Okay. And this is happening real time. And at the same time, the person is still, searching and finding. The agentic can understand the intent of that person and actually recommending the products based on that. It's real time. What is happening nowadays? Like even if you go to Amazon, if you search something, right? Next day when you search again, you probably see similar items. But it's not real time, most of the cases, but it's happening with the help of agentic AI. It is getting more real time. Fraud detection. Fraud detection has the interesting part here. So fraud detection, the agentic AI is actually getting all the alerts, different existing fraud alerts, analyzing those, creating new hypotheses. What are those hypotheses? New fraud or attackers paths. And based on those hypotheses, they actually find those hypotheses and then check if those hypotheses could be real, could be valid, could be feasible, and if they're actually creating a response steps and they keep those information handy. So if any new fraud workflow matches those new hypothesis, identified or defined new hypothesis based on the existing, threads, it will be prevented. So it has been more proactive rather than reactive. Nowadays, the fraud detection is reactive. A new hacking happens, then the whole world find that, oh, there's a new hacking process happen. Then how you prevent? And they find the prevent and then implement that. But Agentic AI is actually creating new hypotheses of new fraud activities and how to prevent. They're storing those information safe aside, and if someday that new actually fraud fraud activities happens which matches to any of these hypotheses, it prevents. Order fulfillment. So order fulfillment is like inventory, right? So Agentic AI is making the inventories more smarter and smarter. Right? For an example, it's pre-ordering the stuffs way early. So they might be, say, for an example, the Thanksgiving time or Christmas time. They're analyzing the inventory for years and years and find that, okay, this is the pattern and this product needs to be ordered earlier. Like it's more like human analyze, and they have a data that we order these products during this time, but a product can goes ups and downs and depending on other factors, right? So, and depending on local environment or weather, and a lot of things Agentic is considering, and based on that, they are actually forecasting long before and replenishing the products inventory based on that events. Another example is that, for an example, Sometimes it happens that it's a Christmas after 2 days and you need to buy some tree or something, whatever, something which is related to Christmas only. Let's take an example of Christmas tree, right? So, what happens? The agentic will understand, hey, this guy is ordering a Christmas tree only for Christmas and he has 2 days left. But the normal delivery of this Christmas tree is 3 days. And if we deliver the after 3 days, he has no use. So he expedite it and change the delivery to 1 day or 2 days, say 1 day. I'm just giving an example. So that's the smartness. If you go in normal systems, like, even though that they have a fixed timeline, they cannot adjust it based on this context. But Agentic AI will do, and they're doing it, right? Customer service chatbot is getting smarter. They understand the content and intent of the customers when they're interacting, and they're making the interaction better. Inventory, I just talked about that. Dynamic pricing is actually a very complex part, and they are understanding the dynamic and keep changing the pricing, right? Static to dynamic, and at the same day, they are changing the product. The agentic is changing the product more frequently so that they can be more competitive across the board with the competitors. So this is actually an example of e-commerce, right? eBay actually create a AI shopping agent in May 2025, and in a limited scope, they launched it, right? They actually, train the different models of that agentic framework with their 30 years old database, marketplace database, and they're rolling in and they're doing a lot of experiments. So, insurance, right? Fraud detection, we talked about the same thing. Customer service also kind of little, flavor, obviously there. This customer service agents for, has a lot of information. You might add a RAG. Obviously, you need to add a RAG, not might, right? With the lot of information, but the agentic AI is actually getting more smarter to talk to the customers. They're processing claims and a lot of things, through chatbots only or conversation AI. It's another things that's actually emerging very fast. Claim processing, they are actually trying to make the autonomous agent more smarter so that the claim can be completely autonomous and less human in the loop or human, intervention. Intelligence underwriting, we just talked about when I was giving an example, like how they're making the underwriting process more intelligence with the help of agentic AI, right? But the whole catch here, I'm not going to all this part here. The whole catch here is insurance and healthcare. These are the two domains, right? Are very complex. Plus, the fault tolerance is very low because insurance and healthcare industry actually developed on trust, right? So you have very less scope to do any mistakes, which you can consume those kind of mistakes in retail or in e-commerce. You cannot do it in insurance and healthcare. So that's why they're adding a human in the loop. For an example, the agentic AI is any of these 6 areas, they're having an outcome, right? But once the outcome is there, there's a human in the loop who is actually evaluating that outcome and taking the final action. Maybe not for the customer chatbot, but maybe definitely for the claim processing or intelligence underwriting, right? Whatever the outcome is, the human actually, spending some time to see everything is fine, and then they pass it to the next level. And 90% of the work could be done by the agentic AI, but the 10% still there where human actually do validate these things, because we are still evolving as we implementing this agentic AI in the industry, and things are getting smarter. Maybe one day, and very soon, I'm sure, not maybe, right, that everything will be autonomous. Human probably need probably won't be involved at all in these processes, and they might be involved in more complex things, right? But that's how the things are getting evolved. So there is a company called Federato Insurance Company. They launched an enterprise-grade agentic AI platform in October 2025, and they are actually, marketizing it slowly and gradually, expanding it actually the scope of this. So in the interest of time, I think we are 30 minutes over. So healthcare, I'm not sure, Jimmy, it will be shared, but yes, I think healthcare also have some, unique pattern. We do not have the time to discuss about this, but I think I'll give it a rest to this conversation. And then if you have any questions, I'll take those questions.